I saw that, and I really didn't make much of an effort to talk to Millie about it as far as going. But I'll relay to her that, that's probably going to be it now.
Yeah.
Well,
The
just,
hospital's considered doing it again, but they're not interested. I mean, who knows? You
well, just make sure we got separate dance floors, will you?
never know. We'll do.
It's almost that time. It is? Is Barnes going to be here?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, November 10th meeting of the Lynn Haven Community Redevelopment Agency. I'm calling the meeting to order. The first order of business, I would like a motion from the board to excuse Commissioner Ashbrook and possibly Commissioner Barnes, who may be arriving late or maybe not at all to the meeting. So do I have a motion?
Also move.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Shad. Aye.
Commissioner Friend. Yes.
Yes. So we will proceed with the meeting. Item number 2 is approval of the meeting minutes from September 22nd, 2015. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And to second, thank you. And to second, thank you. Is there any discussion or questions over the September 22nd minutes from the board? Is there any discussion or questions from the public regarding the September 22nd minutes? And there is none. Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll for approval of the minutes?
Commissioner Shad.
Aye.
Commissioner Friend.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. Item number 3, discussion and possible action regarding the residential incentive program application for 504 Indiana Avenue. Is there any information from staff, Mr. Schubert?
Yes, Mr. Janke is here to present.
Would you please present? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I received an application, another one of these residential incentive program applications from a local contractor for the property located at 504 Indiana Avenue. It's currently a vacant piece of property just a few blocks from here. The applicant submitted all the required information. This project qualifies for our incentive program. The applicant is requesting an incentive of $2,500 for this project, and staff is requesting approval of this application.
Thank you. Is there a motion regarding this? It sounds very loud. I'm sorry. Is there a motion regarding item number 3?
I'll move approval.
And is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or questions from the board from Mr. Janke? Are there any questions or discussion from the public regarding this item? And there appears to be none. Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Shad.
Aye.
Commissioner Friend.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. So that motion has passed. Moving to item number 4, which is the Sheffield Park renovation. Discussion and possible action regarding the task order for engineering services. Mr. Schubert, are there any reports from staff regarding this item?
Yes, Mayor. Mr. Janke is prepared to speak on this as well.
Thank you.
This item is in regards to the renovation of Sheffield Park. If you recall, we had talked about, or the CRA board approved, a conceptual master plan at a previous meeting, And I reached out to Preble Ridge and to draft a task order for the construction plans for these proposed improvements to Sheffield Park. I attached this task order to this agenda for your review. It includes all of the construction plans for the site itself, but also the architectural plans for the new stage and the proposed restrooms. The overall amount for this task order would be $83,050. And as I mentioned before, it includes the fee for the civil design, landscaping, and architectural services. With these construction plans in hand, we will be able to proceed with any future phases or any type of construction for Sheffield Park, whether we decide to renovate the entire park at once, or if we decide to implement the improvements in phases. This would be up to the discretion of the CRA board, how you would like to proceed. At this point, we're requesting approval of this contract or this task order as presented.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval for item number 4?
I'll move approval.
And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Are there any questions or discussion?
I have a
Go
question.
ahead.
Now, I just want to make sure everybody understands. We are approving to proceed to draw plans. This is not approval to build anything. All right? That part will have to come back to us later, and then we will make a decision whether it's different phases. We don't even know the cost yet, but that will be part of this process. So we are approving only the preparation of plans.
That's my understanding as well.
Just want to make sure.
Any other questions from the board? Are there any questions or discussion from the public? Yes, Mr. Walker.
Good afternoon. Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. One quick question, but I did notice what he said there in the end there, which I don't think everybody heard, was this also included the fact that they're going to make, or maybe you will be making the decision to do this all at once or in phases. I didn't get whether you were approving that along with this, or it was just a suggestion that because of this, you will then enter into discussion whether to approve it in one step or 7 steps.
My understanding of what he just said, Mr. Walker, and I'll defer to the attorney if I interpreted it incorrectly, was that these engineering plans, because of their completeness, leave this project open in the future per approval of the board. If we were to get some windfall grant money or something, we could go forward with the whole project, that we would be prepared to do that. Is that?
That's my understanding, is you could do it all at once or in piecemeal.
Thank you for the clarification. Question that I wanted to start with was the $3,050. Is that part of the pre-phase $45,000, $50,000 estimate, or is that an inclusive of extra?
I'll have to defer to staff on that one. I'm sorry, I'm not seeing where you are.
If you remember, the 7 phases were listed out, and in the beginning of the 7 phases was a $50,000 startup.
Yes.
Okay. My question is this $3,050 part of that startup fund, or is it extra?
You're saying, sir, you're saying $3,050 or 83?
83,000.
83,000.
That's why I'm confused.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I missed that. Thank you. Whoa. Is that part of phase 1? Is that part of the 50,000 or what?
The 50,000 was grant monies, was it not, Mr. Yankee? Yes. Yes, please feel free to come forward and clarify. Thank you.
Good question, Mr. Walker. Thank you. You can consider the $83,050 as part of the soft cost for this project. It was estimated in the beginning at around $50,000. Here again, this is a development process, and the further we go through this development process, the more accurate these numbers are. I mentioned before that currently the cost estimate for the overall project is about $1 million. Typically in the development world, you calculate between 10 and 12% of your project cost for soft cost. So we're definitely below that percentage.
Thank you. Did that answer your question, Mr. Walker?
It answers my question, but it enlightens me on one thing. I was correct on the $50,000, but at the start of this project, already you're going to be over budget, it seems already.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion or questions from the public? Okay, at this time, Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll for discussion and possible action regarding the task order for engineering services?
Commissioner Friend,
Yes.
Commissioner Shad,
Aye.
Mayor Anderson.
Aye. And so that has
Mr. Barnes
passed.
is here if you want
Pardon me?
to. Mr. Barnes just came.
Oh, hello, Commissioner Barnes. We are moving to item number 5, and at this time, I'll have to defer to the attorney. Do I need a motion to include Mr. Barnes back in the meeting, or are we okay?
I think he's been excused, but he's here now, so.
We don't need another motion to
No.
bring him back. All right, just checking on that.
You
Okay,
might want to just note for the record that he's,
for the record, Commissioner Barnes is now present in the meeting. Thank you. Item number 5 is discussion and possible action regarding the advanced electrical contract approval for purchase and installation of the South Gateway Monument. Is there a informational report from staff? And
Janke.
once again, thank you very much, Mr. Janke.
This project was inherited by, from the, or originally, or was originated by Lynn Haven Main Street, and Lynn Haven CRA recently inherited this project since this project is still under construction and we're about to complete this project. This contract with Advanced Electrical includes the construction of the actual sign, the South Gateway Monument, which will be located at the southeast corner of 17th Street and Ohio Avenue. The original amount that was approved by the Lynn Haven Main Street Board for this purchase order was $33,500. Due to the recent change of the location of the sign, we had to adjust the amount of this purchase order. The new amount is now $36,000, and according to our purchasing policy, we have to get approval from the board once one purchase order exceeds the amount of $35,000. So, so it's kind of like a housekeeping item to make
Yes.
sure that the board is okay with this amendment of this purchase order. And at this point, we're requesting approval of this new total of this purchase order.
Thank you. Are there any questions or discussion from the board regarding this change order for item 5? Are there any questions or discussion from the public? Mrs. Walker?
Janet Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. I'm hoping everybody can hear me because otherwise I haven't been able to hear very clearly the previous speakers. I wanted to ask whether or not these funds are coming from the CRA account. Yes, you're telling me yes.
My understanding is that's where the funds are coming from. Is there any
Okay,
corrections
according to
needed?
the CRA format, the area that they're proposing to put the monument is outside the CRA area. So I'm not quite sure how you can use CRA funds when it's outside the CRA area. The CRA area goes up to 17th Street, which is up to the curb. This particular monument is going to be past the curb. So I'm thinking that this should not be taken from the CRA funds.
Okay. My understanding is that it's on the right-of-way, which would include
sorry?
it. My understanding is that it's on the right-of-way, which I believe is inclusive, but somebody correct me if I'm wrong on that. Ben, could you speak to that, please?
Back in 2009, the CRA board officially approved an ordinance that identifies or that outlines the exact boundary of the Lynn Haven CRA. So we do have a legal description of the CRA, and this project is within the boundaries of the CRA based on this legal description.
Okay, thank you.
I respectfully disagree with that.
Okay.
Not only do I disagree with the area that is being put, I don't believe it's a proper place for that monument. I believe it's not going to look very nice. I think it's going to be overbearing in the area. And I just don't think it should be paid for with CRA funds. I just respectfully disagree with what was just said by them.
And your comments are duly noted. We are at the point with this now, however, this is not about whether the monument should go there. It's just a change order for the cost. Is that my understanding? So it's the discussion is today. Just is this change order for $2,500 going to be approved? That's what this is about. The monument has already been approved.
Well, the costs have to come before the building of it, so I disapprove of the cost also of the funds.
And anybody else? Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Walker. Yes, Mr. Walker?
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. With all due respect, the discussion and situation saying that that's within the CRA is incorrect.
Okay.
It is totally incorrect. In a public request, information request to the city of Lynn Haven, I asked, did the CRA extend to that area? Document came back to me, said no. It's not it. That there is no.
Was that recently, Mr. Walker?
Yes,
like,
yes.
As in.
There is no exchange of changing the area of the CRA. The CRA does not include the right-of-way of 77. The monument has been accepted and has not been accepted by the CRA. It is a hand-down from Main Street Incorporated. This is it. This was not the original monument that was approved by Main Street. I notice in the contract, it says Community Aesthetic Feature Agreement. That is the company or corporation that is doing this. It doesn't say CRA. That's what it says here. And I'm trying to figure out who the new Community Aesthetic Feature Agreement or Community Aesthetic Group is, otherwise known as the agency, who has petitioned to FDOT for this right-of-way monument.
I'm not seeing where he's reading from. I'm looking for where you're reading from, Mr. Walker. I apologize.
I understand we're discussing $2,600.
No, I don't know what you were just asking. I don't know where you're reading from. The
This
community.
is the agreement.
Are we reading from the same
FDOT.
document as my question?
Probably not.
Thank you.
Probably not.
That's in the.
This is the document that was sent by this group, Community Aesthetic Feature Agreement, to FDOT for approval of this on their right-of-way using CRA money. And I'm wondering who these people are. And CRA did not approve this. They inherited it. And you're discussing going ahead with it. I would suggest that you find out who this is and if that is really legally with a survey within the CRA. FDOT has 77 right away. Let me just stop just a second. This caused all concern and made a very big company in this town very irate when we decided to put this on their property, which was on the other side of 77, inside the CRA, but on private property. I do believe that this is going to be on private property also, and it's directly over extreme heavy utility tunnel under the ground. So my question is, who are these people? Are they being represented by the RCRA? Are they taking over for the project? Because they're the ones that are submitting for the agreement.
Thank you. I would just defer, thank you, Mr. Walker. I would defer to the attorney, the city attorney, in saying that, you know, as the elected officials, and speaking for myself as the mayor, this project was underway and approved well before my term here, and what we're talking about today is a change order on something that's already been approved. And as far as the land description, I have to defer to that legal description that's been given to me. I'm not, I'm not the person to decide that, and so I don't know if the other board members want to speak to it, but as far as going forward, this was something that's already been decided, it's already been approved, and this is simply a change order as far as the amount of funds that are to be expended. So I would defer to either city manager or attorney to,
Mayor, I
respectfully.
would be happy to take a look at the legal description and of the CRA and the location of the sign to confirm that it's within the CRA.
And I would comment on the community aesthetic feature agreement. It's item number 14, I believe, of the commission meeting that follows this meeting. And the parties listed are Florida Department of Transportation and the City of Lynn Haven, who are the parties for that agreement. I would also say that, we keep talking about price here or what impact on value this is, and it's a relatively small, but what Tyndall Federal paid as far as mitigation for the improvements of their property and what we're paying, the extra $2,500 being contemplated here, is a net gain for the city of $3,500. And I respectfully disagree that, I think the southeast side of that is a more prominent place, whereas it would have been hidden in Tyndall's property had it remained there and looked like a sign for Tyndall Federal. But those are my thoughts.
Thank you. At this time, is there any other discussion or questions about this item from the public? Thank you. Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll for item number 5?
Commissioner,
Excuse me, do we have a motion on the floor?
I believe we had when we started, do we not?
I don't think we
Is there a motion that we approve? Thank you.
Also moved.
Second.
Thank you. At this time, Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Barnes,
Aye.
Commissioner Shad,
Aye.
Commissioner Friend,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, and the motion has passed. I do apologize for that. I check those off as I go, and I thought I had already done it. At this time, we're to item number 6, and we are running a little short of time. We're 8 minutes before the regular meeting, but if there's anyone who has further discussion at this point, yes, Mrs. Walker? And if everyone will try to stay as closely within the 3-minute limit, in case there's other people who want to speak. Thank you very much.
I just spoke a few seconds ago on item number 5, commenting upon the appearance of this particular monument, and you told me that at number 5 was only for the money. Well, now I'm looking down at it, and it says contract approval for purchase and installation. So when do we get to speak about whether or not we really want it there?
My
It
understanding
looks like
is
you
that
just approved the purchase and the installation of the monument.
my understanding is we approved the change order for that contract to take place. I'll defer to the attorney if I've done that incorrectly. If I've
Yes,
spoken that
I believe that's
incorrectly.
correct.
So, I mean, we're voting, or we did vote and passed a change order on a contract that's already in effect. Yes.
You just voted on a change order of the amount, is that correct?
Of $2,500.
Nothing to do about the installation. You didn't vote that they could go ahead and install this particular monument.
My understanding is that's been decided.
That has been decided already?
Was that decided as part of Main Street? And then that, yes.
We had a lengthy discussion
I keep
about it.
looking because I've read this over and over, and my understanding is everything is a go. They just need this change order as Mr. I think housekeeping was the word that you used, but it's just a small change order that needs to take place before they can proceed with the installation.
So we're going on Mr. Jackson's asking Ben that it was approved by Main Street. Main Street is defunct.
It is now, but it was not then.
I realize that. But why should that be carrying? I'm going to have to check my records to see if that was approved, because I don't have that in my recollection.
Mrs. Walker, when Main Street dissolved, the city took all the assets of Main Street, which include all the contract assets too. So the city took the responsibility to finish paying on that contract.
And
that
you
Main
know
Street
for a
had.
fact that it was approved by Main Street. You have that in writing somehow, that it wasn't in fact
I do not
approved?
know that. I was not at the Main Street meetings, but I know that this is a contract that was provided to the city by or the CRA by Main Street as a contract that they had an obligation to pay.
I will check that out.
So.
Thank you, Mrs. Walker. Are there other comments or questions regarding this issue or any other issue for the CRA? And there seems to be none. At this time, the CRA meeting for Tuesday, November 10th is adjourned. The time is 3:55. We'll reconvene in 5 minutes for the Lynn Haven City Commission meeting. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Anybody else need another moment? How are you today?
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. You're welcome. Oh, right on the gavel there. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the November 10th City Commission meeting for Lynn Haven. I'd like to call the meeting to order and begin with an invocation offered by Pastor Adam Beach.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come to you today thanking you for the prosperity that you have given the city of Lynn Haven. We thank you for the people that have been appointed to come to rule and reign over the city, or to come with wisdom and with guidance to make right decisions. Father, we ask now that, Lord, your hand of blessing would be upon Lynn Haven, that prosperity would continue to flow through the city. We thank you for the many businesses that have opened here. We thank you for the many people who have come to make and call Lynn Haven their home. Lord, we're grateful for all that you're doing in this town. Your word tells us that if any man needs wisdom, that he should come and ask. So we ask for wisdom now for the decisions that will be made in this place today. We pray for our commissioners and our mayor and those who sit in this place today who will be given discernment to make right decisions that everyone in this place would see, Father, that are for the benefit of this town. No doubt at times there will be harsh words that can be spoken. We ask that you would send a sense of peace and understanding to open our hearts and our minds. Lord, there be no harsh words, there would be no hard feelings, or there'd be understanding, that there would be blessings and prosperity. We pray this in the precious name of Jesus, our Lord and Savior. And everyone said,
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Beach. Would you please join with me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. I'd like to welcome this wonderful crowd in attendance today and start with item number 3. Can everyone hear okay in the room? We're all good? Item number 3 on the agenda is the mayor's report, and I just have a couple of items, but probably the most important one for me today is the most important woman in my life. My mother is in attendance today, and today is her birthday, so I would like to recognize, since she's sitting back there, so I just wanted to say happy birthday. This is the first chance I've had to see her today, so I wanted to wish her happy birthday. So also, I wanted to invite everyone this coming Saturday. We have something very new and different in Lynn Haven to promote the arts, and Roberts Hall is going to be doing some of the hosting of this. It's called a plein air, a French word, event, and there will be arts all over the city, and this is the Impressionist artist of France, the Monet and all of that. They liked to paint outdoors where the light was diffused under what they called a big umbrella of light. And so there will be artists diffused all over the city painting if you want to get out and walk around and look and see what they're doing. And Arlene Harrison, who is the #1 volunteer over at Roberts Hall, can give you more information. So we're very excited about that. Okay, so you can stop by Roberts Hall at what time, Ms. Harrison? At noon, and pick up an agenda to take you through the city for the art. And then finally, I just wanted to mention that week after next, I will be attending a League of Cities conference in Orlando to meet with legislative committee. And the committee that I'm on with the League is to work with federal legislation, traveling to D.C. at different times to lobby for those needs for the municipalities of Florida. So I'm very excited about that. That'll be my first meeting, and really looking forward to it. So at this time, I'll defer to Commissioner Shad for his report. Item number 4. Thank you.
Yeah, it seems to me, after all the rain we've had this past week, and we've had some pretty heavy rains out here, I don't recall any reports of flooding like we have had in the past. And I'd like to commend our Public Works Department because I know in the past couple of months, I've seen them scooping ditches and cleaning out things, and I think all of that has helped. And I just think that's a good sign of progress for us.
I do too. Mr. Baker, would you stand and let us give you a round of applause for that good work? Thank you. Commissioner Shab, was that your?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Commissioner Ashbrook?
I have a report that I'm going to defer to the next commission meeting room with some more details on some roads and intersections that I have information that I'm putting together for you from the TPO, as I think I've mentioned to Leon. So I'll defer my report to the next meeting.
Thank you. Commissioner Friend, do you have a report?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mayor. Attended the Veterans Celebration today at Lynn Haven Elementary, and I just really enjoyed it. They had a packed crowd in the gymnasium there, and it's just really good to see our young people celebrating and singing for all veterans. So I'll take the opportunity to just do the same, tell our veterans how much we appreciate everything you've done to give us the opportunity to be here today, quite honestly. So thank you for all the many sacrifices. Also, I did travel to the MPOAC in Orlando. We had a really good meeting, went over legislation stuff, went over and looked over the budget and stuff. But one of that I know is going to come up later on that I'm excited about is we may form a subcommittee with new developments with Rails for Trails and funding. Someone had asked, can we do a subcommittee for those particular funds and be a part of that? And so if we do that, I've asked to be a part of that particular committee. So considering we have that opportunity here in Lynn Haven. So hopefully that'll come to pass, and I'll keep everybody in the loop on that.
Great.
And that's all I have.
And I really appreciate you bringing up the veterans in this meeting, because tomorrow, of course, is Veterans Day, and many of us will be participating in parades and celebrations. And so if I may just intrude on what you just said, if there are any veterans in our audience today, would you please stand and let us recognize you for your service and on the board? Thank you. Thank you so much. And at this time, Commissioner Barnes, would you like to offer a report?
Yes. Today we had our Veterans Luncheon at Haney, and part of that was the singing of the national anthem. And the person who was supposed to sing that for us did not show up. However, we had Officer Caitlin England, who came in and sang that national anthem for us. So I just want to say thank you, Caitlin, to her publicly, and Dave is a good officer, so we appreciate it.
And I think she's back there, is she not?
She's back there somewhere. She had to run.
She stepped out. Oh, well, maybe we can get her.
Let's give her a hand.
Yes,
Anyway,
yes, when she comes back. Thank you. Is that,
Great. That's it.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to call for the city manager's report, item number 5.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one item. If Officer Hawk is here. Hawk? There he is. I've got the Employee of the Month, and I think it's very interesting, our multi-talented Lynn Haven Police Department. I didn't know we had a singer amongst them, but Officer Hawk continuously goes above and beyond the call of duty, and he most recently exhibited that. He had a complex call involving children. And those are usually some of the toughest ones. And he worked there, he worked it, he did his report, and he understood that they had a need as far as clothing and food. And on his own time after, he went and he purchased clothes and food for these kids, which obviously he didn't have to do. So I want to commend you for that in your service, sir. I don't know if my knee's going to make it.
Thank you. Did you have anything else?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Item number 6, the city attorney's report.
No report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Then we'll move on. I'm
Madam
sorry.
Mayor, may I just interrupt?
Please go ahead.
Tomorrow is Veterans Day, and I would just like to say thank you to all of the veterans, past and present, and particularly those that are still alive, for their service and what they have done for this country. You know, I'm proud to say I'm a veteran, but most of the veterans that gave the most aren't here. And those of the greatest generation are just dying out now. They reach the age, and we are so grateful. And I'm proud of our community. When I say our community, I'm saying Bay County, of all the things that they are doing and have done to recognize veterans. It's happening in churches, it's happening in the restaurants, it's happening in retail stores. They're finally waking up after many years and recognizing the sacrifices and everything that the veterans have done for us. And I'd just like to say I think that's great for our community. The second thing I would like to remind everybody is Thanksgiving's not too far off. My personal feeling is every day is Thanksgiving Day. Not one day a year. Every day is Thanksgiving. We ought to be thankful we wake up in the morning. We ought to be thankful that we have aching bones. It means we're alive and can feel. We ought to be thankful for every little thing that we have and not just wait until one day a year. And I think we ought to be thankful to our friends and those that don't have much, and even be thankful to our enemies. Because by golly, they remind us how much we have in life to lose and how much we have here in this country. So let's be thankful every day, not one day a year. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Commissioner Shad. Moving on to the consent agenda. And at the last meeting, we began with a way of just getting through some of the items. And what we'll do is we'll go through items 7 through 14 and then vote to approve them all at once. When I get to item number 14, I will ask if there's any public commentary on any of these items at that time. So the public will have a chance to speak if there's anything here that you would like to comment or question in the consent agenda. Item number 7, do I have a motion of approval for the minutes for 10/27/15, the regular meeting?
So moved.
Second.
And I need to defer to the attorney for a moment. I'm getting a motion on each item and then one vote, or I can get a motion for all of them at the end.
A motion on the entire slate.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any, Mr. Shad, would you please withdraw the motion?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Will.
Item number 7, is there any discussion or questions about the regular minutes for the last
Excuse me,
meeting?
Mayor, do you want me to withdraw my motion?
Yes, please, thank you.
I'll withdraw it.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or questions? Thank you. Item number 8 is the reappointment of the General Employees Pension Board member, Pamela Kidwell. Is there any question or discussion from the board or report from staff on this item? Thank you. Number 9, the appointment of new Planning Commission members, Michael Cross and Karen Parham. Are there any reports from staff or questions from the board on this item?
Yes, ma'am. I have a question on Karen Parham.
Okay.
When I look at the application, even though it states that she lives in Lynn Haven, her address is 3007 Bay Wing Loop, Panama City, Florida, and her business address is Panama City Beach. I just want to make sure, is she live here in Lynn Haven? What is her Lynn Haven address?
Yes.
Check the address, and I think although it comes up Panama City, I think that's a postal code issue. It is actually Lynn Haven. She does live in Lynn Haven.
Right.
That's just like a couple of those zip code anomalies.
You just wanted to make sure.
Thank you. Any other questions? Item number 9 from the board. Thank you. Item number 10, approval of the surplus property list for disposal. Any questions or concerns from the board? Item number 11, the approval of memo of understanding with Gov Deals for the sale of surplus property. Any questions or discussions from the board? Item number 12, the approval of memo of understanding with Big Bend Community-Based Care Incorporated regarding investigation and recovery of missing children. Are there any questions or discussion from the board? Appears to be none. Item number 13, award of bid for emergency generator at Police Fire Station number 1. Discussion or questions from the board? Item number 14, discussion and possible action regarding approval of Florida Department of Transportation maintenance agreement for the South Gateway Monument. Any discussion or questions from the board? There appear to be none. At this time, I would like a motion for approval for the items in the consent agenda.
So moved.
And a second. And then at this time, if there are any questions or discussion from the public, we would take those at this time. Because of the large number of residents in attendance today, if you have questions or discussion on any of the items, if you would please try to be pointed and keep it within the 3-minute time limit. I'm not going to cut you off, but I would appreciate that very much. Thank you. Are there any questions or discussion? Yes, sir, Mr. Walker.
Seems that Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue, seems we're interested in these monuments and gateways. Just for a little explanation, the South Gateway Monument,
Yes.
this is dealing with the maintenance agreement. As I understand it, that was built by the CRA and the city. And is it on FDOT property or is it on city property? And,
Go ahead.
okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Also, the fact that most of the time that the city does build these things, and CRA or Main Street Incorporated, they fail to put a maintenance agreement in this. So I'm wondering what changed here. Is the city responsible for the maintenance, or is FDOT responsible for the maintenance? Was it a CRA project?
I would defer to the city manager to answer the question, please, if you are.
This project's going to be in the DOT right-of-way. It is a CRA project. As you know, Main Street was essentially a pass-through for the CRA anyway as far as budgeting. So that's what this agreement is.
It's the one down there that hasn't been built yet, and this is the agreement that's going to go along with that program we discussed in the previous meeting.
Right. This is the actual agreement I believe you were speaking about during the prior meeting.
Thank you, because it's good, because we're thinking about maintenance for this.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion about items 7 through 14, the consent agenda? And there appear to be none. At this time, Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, the motion to approve all items in the consent agenda has passed. And moving on to old business, item number 15 is the discussion and possible action regarding proposed amendments to the current golf cart ordinance. And this is something that we discussed in both a workshop and a previous commission meeting. And since I was the one to sort of bring about the proposal in response to last spring's election, I did want to just go over, and I've placed a copy. There's one in the board package and also online, but each of the commissioners has a copy. And after I wrote my proposal of what the amendments would be, after researching and looking, the city attorney has advised me that the city of Lynn Haven is unable to place further restrictions upon any statute that Florida already has in place. And basically, the golf cart ordinance that is in place is, the verbiage is the same as the Florida statutes, with one or two small differences. One of those is that Florida statute states that a 14-year-old may drive a golf cart, and Lynn Haven states that the driver must have a licensed driver with them at age 14. So that is a small infringement which has been there against the statute, but it's been in place for 5 years and with no repercussions about it. But basically what I would like to say is that in the proposed amendments, the only changes that I'll be asking for to what is written there now is that instead of the 26 neighborhoods in which the golf cart ordinance presently exists, that we would expand it to include the CRA area, which is our old part of Lynn Haven, and then several other streets adjoining North Shore, such as Massachusetts, Vermont, Rhode Island, that area where the residents there have sent me many requests that they would like that ability as well. No county roads would be involved. No city roads with speed limits over 25 miles per hour would be involved. And the county has written a letter, the chairperson of the county commissioners, approving 2 crossings. It would be on the same streets, Michigan Avenue, with a crossing at 289 and 389 and 390, which are 12th and 14th Street, that there would just be one marked crossing at Michigan Avenue, not only for golf carts, but for bicycles and pedestrians, because at this time, if you look, there are no crossings for residents to go from north to south on those two very busy streets. So that would be an enhancement. Whether or not the golf cart ordinance passed, it would be something I would hope we would even look at. The other crossing would be across Highway 77, right in front of City Hall. In telephone conversations I've had with DOT, that seems to be the logical place because we already have a crosswalk there with the button to stop traffic and so forth. But they would still have to do an engineering study and make a decision. And so in the proposal that I've made, I have an asterisk there that says Bay County has approved the crossing designation of Michigan Avenue. The application for a crossing at Ohio and 9th Street will be processed by FLDOT at pending approval. In other words, there's no need to go through the approval process of a golf cart crossing unless we approve the golf carts in the old or the CRA district. So basically the two changes that I'm asking for are expanding to all of our neighborhood streets, the CRA district and beyond, with 25-mile-per-hour speed limits, leaving out those corridors, those main streets. The only other change that would be there would be a handicapped designation decal for those with golf carts who would like to either cross using the Old Bailey Bridge or to use the golf cart as a way to fish or to have access just to be outside and to be on the bridge. No other golf carts would be allowed, just handicapped access. So those are the changes that I'm asking for, and it's leaving everything else as it is. I would remind everyone that the 26 neighborhoods that currently enjoy the golf cart usage, in 5 years' time, there have been no traffic crashes or accident reports, and there have been 5 citations in as many years. And 2 of the citations have actually been recently. So I feel that golf carts, as they are operating now, have been successful. And the residents who spoke to me during the election and since have indicated to me that that is what they would like to see, that all citizens in Lynn Haven would have equity in being able to use their golf carts in these small neighborhood streets. And there are some voices against. And, I apologize in advance to anyone that I may have offended by bringing up this proposal, but in the interest of literally hundreds of requests, as the mayor, a promise that I made. So however whatever is decided today, then, we'll move forward for or against. So that's my proposal. Is there any discussion or questions from the board, or would anyone be interested in the motion? And I can't make the motion as the mayor, but what needs to go forward? The attorney has advised me that this draft is not an official document. So if we were to move forward today, it would be to authorize the attorney to draft what I just said into a legal document to change the ordinance, and then we would have a first reading at the next meeting. So that would be what we would be discussing to move forward with today.
Is it okay we just discuss it without a
that's
motion?
what I would.
Is that okay, Ron? We'll just discuss it.
I think a discussion is in order.
Yeah, I mean,
I know we're supposed to have a motion in a second.
Right, we talked earlier, spoke with the mayor earlier just about building a consensus on this issue before we go forward with it, so I think a discussion, if it's okay with the mayor, is perfectly
that's
fine.
acceptable to me, yes.
Okay. Well, so yeah, my discussion would be, I think everyone knows that I'm for expanding the golf carts. I do think we're a neighborhood-friendly, walk-friendly. Out of the things that you've mentioned, the only thing that I'm uncomfortable with and probably wouldn't want to support is the bridge. I obviously have a tremendous amount of respect for the handicap and them wanting to participate in fishing. My thoughts on that would just be the bridge is very busy with a lot of different pedestrian and cyclists. The other part of that would be I would like to think that a handicapped person would hopefully have other means of getting out there to fish. So maybe they would have either the wheelchair, the electric wheelchair, or someone to help them get off and on. I would, out of everything that you've proposed to this point, the only thing that I've really always had an issue with is the bridge. So, and of course the crossings. I'm nervous about the crossings, but I think if they're done right, I think we'll be fine there. So, So we'd have to discuss that one
Okay.
in the new ordinance, but that's all I have to
Thank
say
you.
about that. Yes, ma'am.
Other discussion?
Well, let me go ahead and go on record again saying that I am against this. I see many issues with this. Having these golf carts cross Highway 77 at 9th Street, I think is a very dangerous situation. You know, I know the golf carts have become a thing that people are involved in nowadays, but I'm afraid Lynn Haven is just not laid out for the golf carts. I know we passed the ordinance years ago where they were allowed, and Mayor, one of the comments that you made was the fact that if we can't have golf carts everywhere, then we don't need to have them at all. And so I'm of the opinion we don't need to have them at all, except in those designated areas, such as Nature Walk and the Country Club. I think from an enforcement standpoint, this is going to be a nightmare. I think from a safety standpoint, it's not good judgment. And so there is no way that I can support anything other than what we have. And even taking that, what we have in place now, and just saying we need to restrict it to the Country Club and to Nature Walk, where those areas where golf carts are allowed. But expanding it anywhere else, I cannot support that.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Mr. Shad, anybody?
I can't support it. I have received more conversation and emails from people in the last 2 weeks that do not like expanding it. Right? They have some of the same concerns that has been expressed by people that have shown up here. And, you know, the more I read, the more I study, the more I look at ordinances in other places, the more I look at what attorneys have said in other places. I just can't support it in good faith.
Thank you for your comments. Commissioner Ashbrook, do you have comments?
I don't think I can add to what already has been said. I mean, as far as comments go, I think we'll just defer it until we have a vote.
Okay, well, I think that what the attorney was asking me to do, because we must talk in the sunshine, I can't call everybody up and ask them, you know, what they think. So if I'm reading this right, the only commissioner who would be willing to support this moving forward would be Commissioner Friend, and I do thank you for your open-mindedness and considering this. But as I have said, if you know one person cannot move something forward, I appreciate all of the public comments that have been made. Sometimes the negative comments are louder than the positive, and but with, as you can see, with only one commissioner willing to go forward, even with a discussion, at this point in time, I would like to just leave the ordinance as it is. I'm not going to try to move it forward. There'll be a chance at the end, if you have public commentary about anything, that you can discuss. But I think it would be sort of a moot point to try and continue this discussion when only one commissioner is willing to even discuss it. So I do thank everyone, and we will move on from old business item 15 at this time.
Mayor, can I ask one question?
I guess what I'm trying to say, I can go back and we can talk about it, but when you've had 3 commissioners out of the 4 say they won't support it, I'm just not sure how productive a discussion would be. At the end, if you want to, am I out of order to move? I've not quite ever done a discussion like this without a motion, so I'm not sure. I'm not against hearing what you have to say, Mr. DeFell. I'm just, in the interest of time, I'm not sure it's productive at this point in the meeting. If this has been removed from the consideration by the commission. Well, I'm the only one trying to push it forward with one other commissioner willing to discuss it, so I just don't want to waste the time if that's.
Yeah, without an item to consider for up or down, then it would be if you could take comments if you'd like, or you don't have to take comments.
At this time, I would like to ask for a motion for possible action regarding proposed amendments to the current golf cart ordinance.
Mayor, I make a motion that we reject the proposed changes that has been before us.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a first and a second. Is there any discussion from the audience before we vote? Yes, sir.
My name is Dane Messick, and I live at 1400 West 12th Street here in Lynn Haven. Ma'am, before you put me on the clock.
I'm not putting you on the clock. It's
good.
by an ordinance that was
Thank
put in
you.
place by others. I'll
Thank
try to keep it to 3 minutes, but, wrap it up as quickly.
What I would like to do before I bring up the golf cart situation, the last meeting we had, I'm more or less downgraded the Lynn Haven Police Department. And what I'd like to do is give a public apology to these guys that I'm sorry that I even made those comments about force. In the last few weeks, they have really done things that I had brought up at the commission meeting, and they went beyond their means. And I'm giving a public apology from me to the police department that the statement that I made about the motto that they go by is the deal they have on the car.
To protect and to serve, is that what
Protect
you
and serve.
Yes, sir.
I take that back. And I'm giving Lynn Haven Police Department my apologies for that. 2 officers took charge, went beyond their means, and it was Major Reamer and Lieutenant Blaylock, and I appreciate it. Really. Golf cart comment, if I may.
Certainly.
Again, I live on West 12th Street. I don't have a problem with golf carts on the streets of Lynn Haven if we were a gated community. We're not a gated community. My comment with golf carts, I go along with Commissioner Barnes. I am strictly against the golf carts because it's dangerous. And Mayor, I hate to bring this up, but you made a statement in the ledger that we need to stand at 9th Street and Highway 77 and look at the speedsters coming by every day. They're way beyond 30, 35-mile-an-hour zones. You're talking about 60 and 65 on some occasions. Well, I live in a section of Lynn Haven where the old Sally Mae crew gets off, which is aerodynamics. They use the 12th Street. They use it like Highway 77. And if you guys would take 3 or 4 days and sit at West 12th Street and observe it for yourselves, you think it'd be Highway 77. That's the reason why folks around my neighborhood are kind of silly to use a golf cart on those streets. It's dangerous. I don't know about on the east side, but I do know on the west side. There's too many outlets for those cats. What they're trying to do is beat each other to get to 14th Street so they can hurry up and get home. In the meantime, they're going through our 4-way stop signs. One of the Lynn Haven officers was there yesterday. A person on Massachusetts Avenue stopped her, had a long conversation with her because people are cutting through Massachusetts over to 14th Street to hurry up and get home. You guys know the situation about all that. Again, the bridge, I'm a cast nutter. I throw my cast net on the Bailey Bridge for mullet. And I happened to have been there yesterday, and I counted 4 young ladies pushing strollers on that bridge. The city of Lynn Haven had an employee there picking up garbage, and he was there for a while picking up garbage on the Lynn Haven Bridge. So you imagine what it's going to be if we allow more things to get on the Lynn Haven Bridge.
I don't think you're going to have a worry.
Ma'am?
I don't think you're going to have to worry about it.
Okay, well, I don't know. You know, I may walk out and get stones thrown at me about the golf carts, and
I hope
again,
not.
we're not gated for a golf cart. I trailer a golf cart, and I go to the woods with it. I use it during hunting season. When I come back to Lynn Haven, it's on a trailer. But, you know, I'm sorry, but my biggest thing is the golf cart and the apology to Lynn Haven. I hope the Lynn Haven Police Department accepts my apology.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have a comment? Yes, sir.
Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, City Attorney. My name is Stan Jones.
Hi,
I live at 1316 Massachusetts. I would absolutely want to see golf carts in our community. I do not think it is a problem. Yes, there is some speeding concerns on 14th, probably 12th, like he says, but that's an enforcement issue. Once that is dealt with, it won't be a problem. There is limited access into our neighborhood. I do believe that, and I don't have a problem, if it's an area that is west of 77 and north of 390. But I have a golf cart, and there's many, many neighbors in our community that have them. There was at least 2 dozen out on Halloween night. And it's just not fair for us to have the same limited access as other communities, but not have the ability to enjoy it. You know, I like to be able to scoot over to my friend's house and not have to load, you know, us all up in the truck. You know, it's well lit. I am strongly for it.
Thank you. Are there other comments? Yes, ma'am.
Laura Johnson, 1115 Michigan Avenue. I live within a house of where 389 and Michigan Avenue cross. I think people are not giving golf cart drivers credit for having smarts. If people are going to cross that area and they've got a crosswalk there, hopefully somebody's going to pay attention to them. I have a golf cart that is sitting in my carport that I have not been able to use for 3 years, and I would like to be able to use it. I think if we cannot get this ordinance passed this time, or even put it on the books this time, then that's going to help a lot of people in Lynn Haven decide how they're going to vote next time elections are up. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a comment or a question on this issue? Yes, ma'am.
Nita Sampson, 94 Kentucky Avenue. I pulled up the ordinance, and since I know you're going to say no, I'd like to ask a question. Section A says about being limited access subdivision, but Section B says permitted within 1 mile of a bona fide golf course within a limited access subdivision. Is it either or is it one?
It's both, is my understanding.
That's correct. It's both. And I believe if you're looking at Muni Code, if you pulled it off of Muni Code, then
yeah, 66.6.
that ordinance has been changed, and it clarified that it's both.
Oh, it is.
So it's
okay.
it's travel to and from a golf course for golf play or a limited access subdivision.
Okay, so it's not just you have to be within a half a mile.
No, it can be to or from a golf for golf play.
Okay, because it was kind of confusing when I pulled it up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or concerns? Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity, Board. Jay Pitts, live at 1409 New Jersey Avenue. I also support the golf court ordinance. I also have a golf cart. We managed to get around during Halloween. Felt like it was a safer mode of transportation as opposed to having the cars and the kids running to and from that. The problem I have with people talking about safety in golf carts is, first, we're already limited to the age of the person who will be driving them. That is a Florida statute. That is a matched comment within the restrictions for this area. There's no difference in riding a bicycle than the golf cart. I mean, people are not even required to wear helmets. Even on a motorcycle, they're not required to have a helmet. So you tell me the difference in safety for somebody crossing either 77, Michigan, 389 on a bicycle in reference to a golf cart. What's the difference? Just thought I would put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? Yes, sir.
My name is Bob Gardner. Can you hear me? Am I
Yes.
close enough to mic? All right, I'll try. I'll get closer. I live at 1600 Marina Bay Drive, Panama City, Florida, 32409. Roger. We are in Lynn Haven. The golf cart thing I've spoke to you about before, but what I'm obviously hearing is you don't intend to pass the ordinance. But would you consider modifying it, the ordinance that you presently have in place, and allow golf carts on sidewalks that are 5 feet wide, which is state law, in which we are now exercising north of the Bailey Bridge? And the only reason we would want the Bailey Bridge for use is for, and I'm basically representing the people at Marina Bay, the only reason we'd want the Bailey Bridge would be access to this side of town. And we have, on 1 or 2 occasions, used our golf carts to go as far as Winn-Dixie. We would appreciate you considering that aspect of it if you would modify it for the sidewalks. Also would like to mention this, that the fact that Marina Bay sits on 7.5 acres of land, and we contribute about $200,000+ to Lynn Haven in taxes, franchise fees, ad valorem taxes, and water and sewer. And we don't get a lot for $200,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have a comment or question? Yes, ma'am.
Angela Turner, 604 Indiana Avenue. Since August, when this was brought forward, my position has not changed. I've been against the golf carts on the bridge, not against handicapped people, not against people with disabilities, just against disrupting the flow that is there now, that is a safe environment. As the proposed change to the ordinance that you wrote, or whoever wrote,
it was me.
Okay, saying that handicap decal or tags would be required, if it were a guarantee, those would be the only golf carts that would access the bridge, that might make a difference. But I don't know how that can be guaranteed. I don't know how that can be enforced. So therefore, you're going to have someone monitoring that. Because once they get off that bridge, compliance, that it's crossing the bridge with or without that designation, that's going to be the problem. And I just think, again, I appreciate all the commissioners looking into it, giving it a lot of thought. It's obvious you didn't just walk up here, and I think you gave it a lot of thought, and I appreciate that. And a lot of people do use that bridge, many, many more than use the pedestrian lane on the new bridge. People drive here specifically to cross that bridge for exercise, and there's a reason for that. And I appreciate the commissioners giving that consideration.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? And there appear to be none. At this time, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to overlook you. Sorry, I didn't see you.
Arlene Harrison, 904 Michigan Avenue. As far as golf carts go, we have the oldest golf course in the area in our Panama City Country Club. And I think as long as there have been golf carts, there have been golf carts going to and from that golf course. And I've only been since 1980, so I don't know about before that. But I think there's a strong history of use in this town, and of course you're trying to codify exactly where people can be with it at this point. I think also if the golf carts, as I now read this ordinance as written, that if golf carts are restricted to the streets that are 25 mile an hour of speed limit, perhaps that would make drivers a little bit more aware of the rules and slow down some of these drivers on those designated areas, and that have the signage for the golf carts. Also, with the development, with the push for the development of Florida Avenue into a walking, community-friendly area with shops and restaurants and such, and also with the development of the fuel depot and the FSU area, where we're trying to encourage people to utilize different pathways to get to and from shopping and restaurant areas in the city. I think that would be encouraging, to that feel of the community that we're trying to push towards, as well as the rails to trails, which I'm very excited that we're moving forward on that, Commissioner Friend. Let's see. And my feeling is that especially the mobility challenged would be, it would be a lot easier for them to get onto a golf cart and make short runs to the farmers market, the library, to participate in local government, come to the meetings, and to access and community fair, community events. Also, if you decide not to allow the less affluent in the blighted CRA district to use golf carts, then perhaps the privileged in the 26 neighborhoods should not be allowed to either. You've already commented on that. I'm not going to go there. I love the idea of having pedestrian, bicycle, and golf cart crossings across Tennessee, 5th, 9th, 12th, and 14th Streets, which are heavily used by cars wishing to avoid the even heavier traffic on 390 and 77. And I think if golf carts are allowed in these areas, then I'd like to have I love the idea of having the crossings. The Bailey Bridge, I agree with the handicapped being able to use it, as was previously stated. I think that the handicapped are kept at home so much and they can't get in a car and drive, but a lot of them can get in a golf cart and go. And if they have, I'm thinking of my mother also, and people like her her mobility is more and more limited, and she misses desperately seeing the sunsets from the bridge and getting the fresh salt air and the camaraderie of fellow residents that are also enjoying the bridge.
And Ms. Harrison, I don't mean to cut you off, but the time
Is the time, have I already talked that long?
If you can bring it to a point. Thank
let's
you.
see. Okay, I'll bring it to a point. Then.
Thank you.
Instead of looking for all the negatives of this, could we possibly look for the positives and don't take counsel in our fears?
Thank you. Mr. DeFell.
Excuse me, my name is Virgil DeFell, live at 1009 Colorado Avenue, Lynn Haven, have for about 10 years now. Mayor, I really appreciate the time and effort you've put into this. I didn't expect the outline that you presented, and it's refreshing to have you to call attention to issues that have come before you from the public. I didn't call you, but just yesterday, a golf cart on the intersection where I live, which is just a long block north of 12th Street, 389, someone with a golf cart was pulling a yard vehicle with a tractor mower on it. I'm concerned about what I call the law of unintended consequences. I think had we passed this ordinance, and I wasn't going to say anything, as you know, but it seems like that some others would appreciate the time. So I'm glad that it's been withdrawn, and if it ever comes up again, I'll have some suggestions about how to improve what has been stated thus far.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions on this issue before we move on? Thank you. Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll?
Before we do that, I'd like to have Mr. Barnes restate the motion so that it's perfectly clear for us.
Yes, my motion was to reject the proposed changes to the present golf cart ordinance that are in place.
Any clarification for anybody? Okay. Would you please call the roll, Mr. Schubert?
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
No.
Mayor Anderson?
No. And the motion did not pass, and so at this time, I will...
It does pass.
Excuse me, the motion passed against the ordinance. I'm sorry. I phrased it incorrectly. And so at this time, we will not pursue this. I will not pursue this any further. I would like to just make one comment that I appreciate all the discussion, all the comments, all the opinions, and change comes slowly. And all across Florida, thousands and thousands of people safely enjoy golf carts every day, and hopefully in the future we can move in that direction. So thank you for all the input from the public. Thank you.
Mayor, can I just...
Sure.
Just to add to that, and I should have said it during discussion, I apologize, but thanks for the opportunity.
Sure.
I do want to thank everyone that has participated in the conversations today. I also want to thank everyone that has emailed me for and against it.
Yes.
But I really want to point out, this is what it's all about for me, honestly, is local government at work. We're all elected officials. We all represent the residents of Lynn Haven as a whole. And so we have to make our decisions based on those representations of the people that we serve. So I appreciate my colleagues, I appreciate their positions, and I really appreciate you guys coming out and speaking on this issue. And I just appreciate local government. To me, this is what local government's all about. So I think it was a great dialogue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, I
That's
agree.
all. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, moving on then to new business. Item number 16, the discussion and possible action regarding approval of the application for Development Order 15-6, Wayback Burgers Marco Pizza. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. Will you need to swear her in?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Item number 16 is the quasi-judicial hearing of the City of Lynn Haven. If anybody plans on presenting any testimony regarding item number 16, please go ahead and stand and raise your right hand. Swear the testimony you're about to provide is the truth upon penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you. And if any member of the commission has had any ex parte communications regarding item number 16, please go ahead and disclose those on the record now.
I have had none.
I've had none.
I've had none.
I've had none.
And none.
Thank you, ma'am.
At this time, would you like to go ahead with the report? Thank you.
This is an application for a development order by for the development of a Wayback Burgers and a Marco's Pizza restaurant.
Pardon me just a moment. Can we turn up the public microphone just a little bit because I see people as though they can't hear? Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Shall I repeat that?
Please. Thank you.
This is an application for a development order to construct a Wayback Burgers and a Marco's Pizza restaurant. The applicant is Donnie Hendricks of SDMI Development, and the agent is Kim Bottomy, who is the engineer on the project, and she is here if you have any engineering specific questions. The location is between 17th and 18th Streets on Highway 77 East. The size of the property is approximately 0.6 acres, and the current land use is commercial. So the two restaurants and infrastructure, supporting infrastructure are being proposed, which is the parking, the stormwater, the landscaping, buffering, etc. The Wayback Burgers will be 1,860 square feet. Marco's Pizza will be 1,800 square feet. This is the location here. You can see outlined in red. There are actually 3 parcels on this property in between 17th Street and 18th Street. This is the, because this area is in the corridor overlay, there are more specific design requirements. When a proposed development is outside of the corridor overlay, we don't ask them to give us pictures of what the proposed buildings are going to look like, but when it is in the overlay, then they do have to meet additional criteria. So these are what the proposed elevations are. That's the Marco's. This is an aerial shot with the proposed site diagram kind of superimposed onto it. And you can see from 77 there, that's an ingress only. You can't get out back onto 77. You can just get into the site from 77. And then you've got ingress and egress on 17th and 18th Street. And that's the site plan which was in your packet. We have, obviously, all the staff has reviewed it, technical review committee, our engineers, the city contracted engineers have reviewed it. There were a few questions regarding the modelling of the stormwater, so the developer had to submit more information, but the engineers were happy with it in the end. As I say, we do have the engineer here. As far as the permits go, we are making the development order and the final order conditional upon the city receiving all the applicable city and state permits prior to them getting their certificates of occupancy. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion from the board regarding approval of the application for the development of the Wayback Burgers and Marco Pizza, Order 15-6?
Also move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions or discussion from the board?
It is conditional, the approval of the development order, based on the permitting that they, okay.
Are there other questions or discussion from the board? And there seems to be none. Are there any questions or discussion from the public? Mrs. Walker?
Janet Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. Could it please be pointed out to me at the very top left of that picture, there looks like there's a rectangle that sits at the intersection of 17th and 77. Could you tell me what I'm seeing there?
Thank you, Ms. Richard.
That would be the gateway sign.
Thank you very much.
Other questions, Mr. Walker?
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. If you notice there, the entrance for both units is coming on 77. It doesn't look like there's any entrance coming off 18th or any other street there. So is this a spot development, therefore load service on 77 is not even consideration, or has FDOT been attached, or has FDOT approved the entrance on 77? I did not see it in the Planning Commission's paperwork for approval. Second of all,
I'm not sure I understood your first question, Mr. Walker.
first question,
Repose it.
entrance, exit for this is on 77. Totally.
No. Entrance only. Exits are on 17th.
Entrance only.
Exits are on 17th and 18th Street.
17th and 18th. I didn't see
You'll be able to
see
go
him
that
there.
way too.
I didn't see him there. I didn't see any entrance. Okay, so the exit will be through the drive-through, which we have usual questions. Yeah, okay, I see that purge out there. All right, thank you. The exit would be from the drive-through on to 77. Again, my question here is, has FDOT been called on this to show that the traffic volume and load service for 77 is going to be increased, or does this fall under spot building on 77? That's number one question. Second of all, you were pointed out a little rectangle up there in the corner. If you notice that corner there, and it was explained that that will be the gateway sign. Looks like it's on private property. First of all, it's on the right-of-way for 77, and it doesn't seem to be visible if you have a car coming out or a car going that way for that sign. This looks pretty interesting concerning that gateway sign, especially if you look at the diagram, the size of this sign. My question, has FDOT been called and any load service difference for 77 for that one exit as a drive-in?
I'll have to defer to staff with your question. Thank you.
Or is it spot building?
I'm not sure what Mr. Walker means by spot building. As far as we don't have transportation concurrency. Well, we've just rescinded transportation concurrency, but I did still do a check on the volume numbers, and that street, Highway 77, will still be operating within its level of service. So putting this traffic on that road does not make it fail its level of service. As far as the FDOT permit, that is being applied for, and the engineer can confirm that if you need her to.
I mean, from what I'm understanding here, we're not creating a new exit onto Highway 77.
We're not what, sorry, sir?
Not creating a new exit onto Highway
No,
77.
we're not. No, from 77
So I don't know
you
what
can get...
exit Mr. Walker's referring to. The exit will come off of 17th Street and 18th Street.
That's correct.
Yeah, but I was referring to the entrance coming on 77,
That
not
is-
entrance, but exit.
No, it won't exit. It'll be an entrance only. You will not exit out of it.
Okay, entrance.
okay? Entrance only. It is not an exit,
Okay.
okay?
Are we clear? We move?
You would be able to exit off of 17th and 18th Street too, wouldn't you?
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
if you can exit, but you can also come in that way.
Exactly. Yeah, there are 3 ways of getting into the development, and there are 2 ways of exiting the development.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions or comments about this item? There appear to be none. Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. And so this has been approved, pending. Okay, number 17, discussion and possible action regarding approval of Arbor Trace Agreement. Is there any staff report?
I can cover that, Mayor.
Thank you.
Arbor Trace already has an apartment complex out on Jinx Avenue, and they are proposing a second phase. It's 7 apartment buildings, 24 units per building, a total of 168 apartments expansion. They are aware that we have currently engaged a vendor to take a look at our impact fees, to just taking a look relative to other cities. Ours are 2 to 3 times the amount when you look at impact fees. However, you also have to temper that with the fact that we don't have a sales tax, and a lot of these other cities do. Having said that, we're 60 to 90 days away from those results. So what the builder and the city and what we're recommending approval is proposing is they had budgeted based $600,000 for their impact fees, and currently they would be pushing $1 million, a little bit over $1 million. So what we're proposing is we take the $600,000 as a good faith, and within a year in 60 to 90 days, we'll have those results for the commission to consider. And whether it's $400,000 or $500,000 more or $200,000, whatever the commission approves, they will pay that within a year of the commission reconsidering our rates. So that's what this agreement is. There is a proposed promissory note behind it, and like I said, we recommend approval. This apartment complex has shown very little enforcement necessary from the PD, and has been an asset to Lynn Haven.
Thank you. Is there a motion regarding approval for this item number 17?
I move we approve the recommendation of staff.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or questions from the board? Are there any questions or discussion from the public? And there appears to be none. Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. And this has passed. Moving to number 18, Resolution 2015-11-633, fiscal year 2014-2015 year-end amended budget. Is there a motion that we accept this? This is just the red resolution, sorry.
I'll move approval.
We have to read it first. I'm sorry, Mr. Shad.
Resolution 2015-11-633, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Lynn Haven amending the adopted General Fund, Community Redevelopment Agency, and Main Street budgets and the approved enterprise budgets for fiscal year 2014-2015.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or questions from the board?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, City Manager, was there any other thing?
Yes, I'd like to point something out, and if, you know, when I started here, we talked a lot about how where our budget is bifurcated into an enterprise and a general fund. There was a lot of concern, and rightly so, that there was a considerable transfer from the enterprise fund to the general fund. I'd like to point out page 6 of the final budget for 14-15 has no transfer from the enterprise to the general fund, and I'll repeat, no transfer from the enterprise to the general fund, and actually reserves over $800,000. So I'd like to say kudos to the city for working towards that goal earlier than I expected.
Thank you.
And on that, I would just like to to say how much I appreciate you working on that. I know that this goes all the way back. This is an item for me that goes all the way back to the interview, actually, with Mr. Schubert, as we discussed doing this. And I'd said more than once that I thought the goal was a little too ambitious to do it this year. I figured we would not transfer starting next year, but I just want to commend you on the hard work that you did to lead that production. I saw that, and I wanted to make sure that we bring that out in this today. Thank you very much.
I'd like to second that as well, Mr. Schubert. I think your fiscal acumen has done us well.
Thanks. I appreciate the hard work of the staff, too. So. Thank you for this.
That's all, man.
Sure. Now I forgot where we were. We've had a motion and a second.
Motion and a second.
Is there any discussion further from the board? Is there any discussion from the public? Mrs. Walker?
Janet Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. Since I was the person that made the fuss about all the transfers to the general fund, I would personally like to say thank you to Mr. Schubert for doing so, and I will keep my eye on you again next year.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Walker.
At this time, Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll on this wonderful budget?
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, and the resolution has passed. Our final item, or our next to final, number 19, is Resolution 2015-11-634, the acquisition and sale of the fuel depot property. Mr. Schubert, do you want to read the resolution and then possibly speak to it?
Yes, thank you, Mary. Resolution number 2015-11-634, a resolution of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, authorizing the acquisition and subsequent sale of the Lynn Haven Fuel Depot from the United States Air Force to Blue Water Development Partners, LLC, approving the form of the real estate sales contract and development agreement with Blue Water, authorizing the mayor to execute the sales contract and closing documents, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Is there a motion that we adopt the resolution?
I'll approve to adopt the resolution.
There was a motion, and Mr. Shad was the...
After 15 years.
Pardon me?
I said after 15 years.
Okay, after 15 years, he will second that. Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion from the board? Questions? Is there any discussion or questions from the public regarding this? Yes, Mr. DeFell?
Mayor, I may
I'm
take
sorry,
the
Mr.
opportunity.
DeFell, if you give me just one moment, and then you...
I'll be brief. I just wanted to point out that I'm very excited about this opportunity. I think this is an amazing opportunity for Lynn Haven. I've had the opportunity to look at some of the plans and stuff through Joel, and city manager has done an unbelievable job negotiating on behalf of the city to orchestrate the sale of this property. In addition to that, I would just like to point out that he's also, and the developers have also agreed with the Rails for Trails. This is something that's very near and dear to my heart, but more importantly, it was Commissioner Witkoff's vision originally. And I did tell her that I wanted to see that through, and I really appreciate all the hard work that's gone into that. I think we're going to finally see it happening. So I'm very excited, and there will be more to come on that. So I really appreciate the work and the effort that was put into to where we are today. I haven't been here 15 years. Sorry, guys. Didn't take me as long. I don't know what to tell you. No, I'm kidding. I can't take credit for anything. I'm just joking. I'm sorry. I'm a typical politician. Sorry. That's all I have. And thank you very much for the hard work. And I can't wait to see and continue to work with Commissioner Witkoff on getting the Rails for Trails going.
Since Commissioner Friend mentioned Mrs. Witkoff, I would really like, Francis, if you would, please stand and let us give a round of applause to you for your work on Rails to Trails over the years. Thank you. Commissioner Shad.
I would like to recognize Jerry Smithwick for all the work he's done.
Mr. Smithwick, would you please?
I mean, it's been, as he knows, it's been well over 15 years. Twice we got within that far, and twice it fell through. And he's been as frustrated as we have. And I'm glad that we're both still around to see this come to fruition. And also, prior Mayor Bob Gardner was involved early on in this thing too. And Bob, you know all the stuff that we went through to get this done. So it really is something that has culminated. It's taken us a long, long time, but it's something that's going to be an admirable project for the city.
Certainly. Former Mayor Gardner, would you please stand as well and let us recognize you for your work on this? Thank you. Thank you.
Mayor, while we're handing out these accolades,
Go right ahead.
We need to also include former Mayor Walt Kelly, because he worked hard on this as well. So
he was.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Good point.
If he were here, I would have had him stand. I apologize.
Absolutely.
Is there another, anybody else that we want to talk about? Mr. Schubert had a few comments I believe he wanted to make.
I just wanted to go over this just quickly. This is obviously a game changer in my opinion, and going to be a great bookend and another destination point for the city. And it occurs to me we may have folks here that came for a different reason, so I'd like to explain this quickly. It's a 184-acre parcel. The majority of it, and I don't see if my knee will let me get up, is this parcel B that you'll see that is to the west or the left of the yellow outline. It's actually outlined in blue. That's 100 acres approximately, and that's the main piece we're talking about. Parcel A to the east of it in the yellow, that has a lot of waterfront frontage as well, is 40 acres that's going to be gifted to FSU. And then the remaining 44 acres of the 184-acre parcel is this very narrow relative, 100-foot old railroad right-of-way access or easement that runs from the island all the way to 231. So that's what comprises that 184 acres. As discussed, it's been over 15 years that the Air Force decided having that in their portfolio was not the highest and best use, and the city has partnered with the Air Force over 15 years, and the main obstacle all this time has been remediation of the environmental. And it's come to a head twice. It looks like the environmental is actually going to make it through here. The planned transaction date is sometime within the first quarter of 2016. We have spent the better part of a year, and I think longer than a year, negotiating with Blue Water, who's here tonight, to do a simultaneous transfer from the Air Force to the city and immediately transfer it to Blue Water. And again, that's supposed to take place. It'll be on the tax roll for 2017 because it'll transact, hopefully, the first quarter of 2016. But just some highlights of the purchase agreement that you'll see as part of the package is, one, and the most obvious, is it's added tax base for the city. It's a destination point. It's not just tax base. The proposal is for a city marina, as well as the accoutrements and all types of residential, some commercial, and maybe some light industrial. But certainly, through our development agreement, we can limit what goes out there, and we're not going to have anything out there, and they are certainly of the same opinion, that's going to drive property values down either in the immediate proximate area or for the city in general. So I don't want to discount the added tax base, because for those 15 years there was a strong possibility, and some years stronger and some years not as strong, that the Air Force would liquidate this property through a process where it would probably end up or likely end up with the federal and or state government, in which case it's not on the tax rolls. It doesn't benefit the city. We don't have a city marina. We don't have private industry doing what they do best, complementing the city. So that's a big point. This deal contemplates they, being Blue Water, will pay the appraised value, which we don't have yet, but they'll pay the appraised value, whatever this is worth, market value, plus $100,000 to the city to recuperate some of the soft costs over these 15-plus years. There is the potential to add this to the CRA, and we can discuss that in detail. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to explain that. Retaining rights, we will retain rights, as already discussed, to that very long railroad right-of-way for rails to trails and also for the utilities we already have in it. There's also a windfall provision that protects the city from flipping and encourages vertical growth. And what that means is while we are selling this for market value, if the developer has a windfall profit or somebody that just comes in and says, you know what, I don't believe that real estate appraisal, I'll pay you double what you paid for it. If that happens, the city would share profit share in that transaction within the first 3 years. And I would also say kudos to Blue Water because they have worked both with the Friends of the Lynn Haven Bayou as far as that causeway, and you'll see the parcel C down there, which is currently clogged with oyster shells and other debris, and there's no tidal flow on the south side of that Lynn Haven Bayou. They have an agreement already with the Friends of Lynn Haven Bayou to remedy that. Again, that's going to do nothing but help property values in the immediate area. They have also worked with, and I'm sure this will be open for discussion, but the Historical Society as far as one of our favorite topics, the McMullen Library, and we all want to see that restored. And this deal, this purchase agreement does contemplate moving that property to this development, and it puts the onus of restoring that building on the developer, who will work with, and they've already had conversations, the Historic Society, but it puts the burden of restoring that building on the developer as well. So I think that's a win-win situation, at least from the city's perspective. So, that's all I have.
Thank you. Is there a motion that we accept this resolution, acquisition and sale of the fuel depot property? You have to have a motion before we can discuss. Thank you.
Yeah, I thought I'd already made the motion.
I apologize. We got into discussion again. So there's been a motion and a second. Thank you. At this time, is there any comment or further discussion from the board? We've had a lot of discussion, gentlemen. Thank you. I too would like to add my excitement about this. One of the first conversations that I had when I became mayor was with Don Jackson, and got a beautiful view of what this can be for this city, and what a wonderful time to become mayor when so many exciting things are on the horizon. And I'm really looking forward to this. So at this time, is there any commentary or discussion from the public? I believe, Mr. DeFell, you had the first. Yes.
Thank you. Excuse me, Virgil DeFell, 1009 Colleges. From 1991 to 05, I lived at the extreme end of Tennessee Avenue and watched with great interest. So the Sunday paper, in fact, I read this paper daily, have for 20-some odd years, and I would say to the audience, and a former mayor chastised me for looking at the audience, so I learned not to do that. I'm looking at the people up here. But
I'm not in the habit of chastising anyone. Please continue. Okay.
The Lynn Haven Ledger, I'm sorry, the Lynn Haven News Herald, in fact, goes on in quite, Mr. Schubert, pretty much what you just said. And so if anyone has any questions, I'm sure you either have a copy or you can get a copy of this, because it's all right there. And I'm going to take an opportunity that's unusual, but our city manager, Mr. Joel Schubert, does a lot of work that, even though I read and I have friends in lots of places and meet a lot of them a lot of times, I didn't know all that was being accomplished. So I want to salute our city manager for all this work, whether anybody else does or not.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who has a comment or a question? Yes, sir, in the back.
Wes Wenson, 308 Wisconsin Avenue. I was just wondering if the development plans for the railroad right-of-way includes a highway.
If it includes a what, I'm sorry?
A highway. Or is it just going to be the rails to trails along that 100-foot wide right-of-way?
It contemplates, they're calling it a boulevard. It contemplates a boulevard from the island, from that parcel C to 390, where the Blue Moon is, for lack of a better landmark. Within that boulevard could also be the rails to trails as well, incorporated in that boulevard. It's actually, at the start of it from 390, there's going to be signage. It'll be a divided boulevard that'll announce the entrance. Here's a destination point.
So by boulevard, you mean a road? Is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes.
And beyond Highway 390 to the east, then what will?
The city will reserve the rights to do the rails for trails there, and then also, there's no road contemplated there, the short answer, but also keep our utilities there and possibly add utilities such as stormwater.
Okay, so from 390 to Highway 231, it will just be the utilities plus the rails to trails
Yes,
project? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Mr. Walker.
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. Yeah, we all go back way on this. It started a long time ago, and even conversations with the United States Air Force when they declared the property in excess. And we were very surprised that Bay County didn't take it. We don't understand that, but yes, government facilities can take it if they declare it in excess. The contract is quite extensive, and you must be congratulated on your work on it. However, the term win-win situation has been used in Lynn Haven for a long time. There has never been a win-win situation in Lynn Haven. For example, we can mirror this with the 950 acres. It's the same thing. I have only one thing of concern here, and that is the old library. Yes, we were never contacted officially by Blue Waters. We were never contacted by anybody officially. We were asked to do something, the Heritage Society, and I'm speaking as the project officer for the old library. There are agreements in the contract there that implicate the Heritage Society. We were asked to do one thing, and that is to vote on where we would like to put the library. The vote was 7-5 in favor of moving it to 9th Street and the statue. We had two other options. We didn't vote them in because we voted for our option. That was the only thing the Heritage Society has been asked to do. Previous to that, dealing with the old library, we were asked to take extensive planning for over 2 years that would almost mirror this contract on the old library. In discussions with the city, in discussions with the Heritage Society, and in discussions with citizens. We followed the instructions of this city. They asked us to do something. We did it. They have denied us the right to bring that presentation, per their request, to this group. I'm sorry, but that is what has happened. We tried. Our mission statement is very explicit. We will not allow any building to be removed from the historical area or destroyed in Lynn Haven. We've proven that very emphatically by strict obstinance by this group here of restoring Roberts Hall. The old library was our first project 6 years ago. We had to delay that project because of Roberts Hall's immediate destruction. The city has declared immediate destruction of the old library. We're against that. We have voted to move it to where we have a choice in property. We would like to continue with that, but it seems that in this contract here, we have been taken out of the equation and denied the right to honor your request to present the package to this city.
Mr. Walker, are you speaking in an official capacity for the Heritage Society about the library this evening? Representing...
I'm speaking as the project officer for the...
Thank you.
If I were to speak for the Heritage Society, it would be a little bit different. They're about fed up right now. I'm sorry that it's come to this, but that's just one facet of this contract, and connected with this term win-win situation. I don't believe that we have a win-win situation, and specifically dealing with the project of the old library.
With the library. Thank you. Is there any, and I wanted to just make a question of the board and the attorney at the same time, and the city manager. In light of this and some other discussion that has been this week about the McMullen Library, I can't make a motion because I obviously am the chairperson of the meeting, but would it be possible, Mr. Attorney, for them to make a motion to accept this resolution, and with the exception of the McMullen Library portion, and leave that for discussion at the December meeting? Is that could someone make that
Someone
motion?
could do that. It would require, Blue Water's already executed the contract.
Yes.
So it would require them to agree to that and to re-execute the contract with the changes that any changes that we would make in the contract.
Just a question. Mr. Shad, did you have a...
Yeah, my only concern is, after all these years, we've reached the point where we have a contract. Now we're going to start nitpicking it to death, and we'll make this tweak and this change after all the work.
I'm just posing a question, so...
And, you know, it's in the contract that the McMullen Library, you know, will be restored by Blue Water. We will move it there at our expense.
Can I respond to some of what was said?
Yes, and then we still had some more public commentary too, but please go ahead first. That's okay.
I've only been here a year and a half, but I've got a pretty thick folder on this too, and you've never heard the words, "We're going to destroy that library," come out of my mouth, because that's hasn't even been a consideration of mine. On the exact opposite, what we've talked about, and we've had several meetings, and I've got spreadsheets, and I've contacted the city attorney, I've contacted insurance agencies. We've done a lot of research for the cost to restore, regardless of where it sits. We've done a lot of research as far as getting grants. We've done a lot of research as far as the liability, because we would like to partner with Historic Society, but as you know, and we've talked on several meetings, we can't. The liability, we don't have a contractor's license, and the liability is not something that we can take on and have the Historic Society work. And we've investigated all the other sites that have partnered with that too, and determined that they weren't doing something conducive to the city's their city's coffers. But having said that, this offers us, and this is what I heard in the year and a half that I've worked with the Historic Society, is they want to participate in restoring this. They've got a lot of ideas about what that building should be. They've got a lot of ideas of what should be in that building, and I've heard Blue Water say that they are definitely on board with all of that. They've got the contractor's license as far as letting a project such as Roberts Hall occur right on their property with this building. They are willing to facilitate that, and at the end of the day, they're responsible for it. You know, and you're talking about doing this expeditiously. I've been here a year and a half. They're ready to start this as soon as this thing closes. So when I say win-win, I mean it's 50,000-foot level at everything, but with this in particular, to me, albeit you can't satisfy everybody in the society all the time, as evidenced by you with a 5-7 vote of even where to move it, this satisfied all the criteria that I heard for a year and a half from you about, we want to work with it, we need help financially, and we'd like to man the thing. We'd like to be involved with this indefinitely, and I've got a partner that we're hooking you up with that's willing to do that. So that was my philosophy.
Thank you. Was there further discussion from the public on the McMullen Library?
I'd like to say something.
Ms. Tennell?
I'm Libby Tennell, 505 Virginia Avenue. I think I'm the oldest person in Lynn Haven. I was born here, and I live in the house I was born in. And I like old things. And when I had the country store up here after Miss Kitty retired, people would come by and want to know where the monument was. So I would tell them. And this is where we would like to move that old library. I can remember going to it when I was young, when I'd come up and visit my grandparents. And people are not going down there to look at it, I'll tell you. And we would love to have it moved by the monument. And our heritage people have measured, and it will go in there. And that is what I think we ought to do. And I'm very upset about moving it down by the depot.
Thank you, Ms. Tennell. Mrs. Whitcoff?
Good afternoon. Frances Whitcoff, 1515 Missouri Avenue. I think it's wonderful what the fuel depot, we've looked forward to it for so long, and it will be wonderful for Lynn Haven, I know, except for the McMullen Library. I guess that has been all of us have been so close to the project. I had a copy here of a CRA project fact sheet. See who remembers this. Type relocation. Budget, $21,500. Location, Pennsylvania Avenue, Lynn Haven, Florida. Start date, July 2010. Completion date, February 2011. Description, relocation of the Bay County's first library building from Sheffield Park to 808 Pennsylvania Avenue. The project was undertaken in order to expand space within the park. The library building was located within the northeast quadrant of the park. Project costs include a structural engineering inspection, the relocation of the building, and set on concrete footers and piers. Previous location in Lynn Haven, and it was moved. This was all, that's why it was moved, and spent $21,000 to move it. Now, are we going to have to pay again to move it? I don't know what the contract says. I haven't seen the contract. I don't know who's paying for what. But the other thing is also about Rails to Trails. I've talked with the mayor at the beach and some others, and that we could use this bridge, you know, and cross it and go across the bridge, and you can connect with other trails up this way and down South too. So there's a lot to look forward to, and I want to work with you. Okay, thanks.
Exciting. Thank you, Mrs. Whitcoff. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this issue?
Mayor, I might just follow up with the library. I've heard the concerns about moving, and I know my concern is if we don't, that the Heritage is not going maybe to raise the funds to restore it and get it properly the way we'd like to see it. I think it's outstanding that the developer has stepped in to do that. I have seen some of the work from the developer. They do amazing work, and for them to step in and say, hey, we love historical buildings, we want to restore it, we want to keep it. I don't want to use win-win, but I do want to say that I just think that if we don't do something quick with the library, it's not going to make it much longer, and I just think this is a great opportunity. I know it's not exactly where we want it to be, but I just think it's a really good opportunity to have that building restored and restored well. I've seen some of the work. In addition to that, the research, everything that I've done going back to Rails to Trails is you've got to go somewhere or they're not successful. And I think going into the fuel depot in this development is going to be a great way for that to happen. But even just going to that building, I've been in Louisiana where they have a very similar situation with the rails, and they have the old depot for the train, and they did exactly like what we're talking about. They restored it, and they made it look, it's a historical building, and then they've got the historical paintings and pictures and all kind of history of that town. I can't remember the town right now. But anyway, I know we can't do everything that we want to do maybe with that building, but I'd like to think that we could compromise to some degree just so that we can get it done. I'm getting nervous. I park over there a lot, and it's just looking really, really bad, and I have complete confidence that the developer is going to do an outstanding job on restoring it. So that's my comments.
Are there any other comments from the public? Okay, I would like to say that I think that Commissioner Friend's comments were well put about the library. As I've listened to friends and neighbors talk about it, and my personal desire would be to see it by the statue there by the Lynn Haven Elementary School. But as the stalling has continued, and I am I don't see any movement happening before that library becomes any more deteriorated. And so there's always feelings of sadness and loss when something doesn't happen exactly as you want it to. But I in my conversations with the gentleman of Blue Water, I really truly have looked one of them in the eye and spoken with him extensively, and I trust that he shares the same love and the same feelings that I do about the old building, and will do it right. So I do concur with Commissioner Friend.
I'd like to make one comment. It'll be strictly from a fiscal standpoint. We will have spent in excess of $40,000 on that building, moving it twice. And I think the taxpayer of Lynn Haven needs to have something done with that building. I don't think moving it to the park and letting it sit there and coming to the taxpayer of Lynn Haven constantly to restore it is the right thing to do. If I thought that the Historical Society was going to raise the $150,000 to do something with the building, I'd set it over there. But we got to stop sometime. $42,000, $41,000 invested in that structure. Put it somewhere and see if somebody who's going to willingly invest money in it will do that. But quit going to the taxpayers all the time to ask them to do something for a group or whoever who doesn't want to invest and put their money into it. There are ad valorem taxes. We've had everybody talk about it tonight. Okay? Quit taking every bit of taxpayer money on a project. We don't know that every taxpayer wants their money spent that way. They want their streets paved. They want their infrastructure redone. If you want to restore the building, you should have gone out and restored it. We were agreeable to giving it to you. But it's now our piece of property and we got to do something with it. So it's going to get restored, as I understand it. Maybe just not at the right place where 7 out of 12 wanted it to go. But it's bad enough to spend 20-something thousand more dollars to move it. When do we stop spending other people's money for what we want? That's it.
Mr. Walker.
Rich Walker again. I don't want to belabor this, but I don't think you people understand the full package of what we did and what we presented. I know you don't care. Mr. Shad started it off by saying we don't want to spend $110,000 to renovate that building. And you're saying that we've got $40,000 into it. No, you have $200,000 into it and plus.
That's even worse.
Yes, it's even worse because you made the decisions to do it.
Where's the other $150,000?
We came up with the fact of this, and I'll lay it right in front of you. In the meetings, we discussed, we were going to go ahead and do this project, finish it, and no cost to the city. We were going to maintain it. We were going to operate it. The Heritage Group volunteered to operate it as the tourist center for this city. That lady there, who just got up there, was going to be the one that was going to be there and greet the visitors. We presented this all to the city, their delegations.
3 or 4 years ago.
Please don't interrupt.
That's correct. We kept going. We kept up with it. Every time we did this, they presented another blocking stone, just like they did with Roberts Hall. Exactly. Over and over again. I do not want to make this a stumbling block for your grandiose thing down there. That is not the point. I just want it presented to the city that we did what you told us to do. We did what you asked us to do. We proved to you that we could give you that building restored back to the way it was in 1920, almost exactly, for nothing. It was never presented to you, never brought to these people. The Heritage Society worked very hard on this, very hard. And believe me, I do not want to make this a stumbling block. So if you think this is an objection, no. It's just telling you the exact work that we put into it is almost mirrors, not closely to what you did for this. We tried.
Thank you. And the Heritage Society's efforts at restoration stand gleaming for the entire city to see in Roberts Hall and the work of everybody who volunteered and raised money outside of taxpayers' dollars. I will agree with you on that for sure. Yes, ma'am.
Janet Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. Again, just like my husband, I hate to keep talking about this, but it does appear to me right now, with all of you sitting up there, that you were not fully aware of what was happening. There was a huge effort on the part of Libby and Arlene. They were out there on foot, going from Lynn Haven business to Lynn Haven business. Could you give us some glass windows? Could you give us an air conditioner? They had people lined up to give us all of this stuff for the library. And we had one person, he's not here anymore, but he had one person that said, no. We had sweat equity forms already ready for every person in town to get out there and help us do this. But there was Mayor Kelly put the shots to everything. So he stopped us, and all of this was for no reason. But he, for some reason, said, no, you can't do that, whether he didn't want to help or whatever, personally help, because we were asking for everybody's personal assistance. But all of the hard work of these two ladies out there getting us free goods and free help, landscaping, etc., for this building, and because Mayor Kelly said no, it didn't come about. And now you're blaming us for not following through, which is ridiculous.
May I respond, Mayor?
Yes.
We've had meetings since Mayor Kelly has not been in office. And what I've heard loud and clear and what I've heard tonight, to me, just is not true. If I've got an option where I can present to the commission that this can be done at no cost to the city, it would have been done and it would have been presented. What I have presented and talked to the Heritage Society, no matter who was the representative, because that's changed two or three times, was find me a way. Find me a way to take that liability out of the equation so you guys can go out there and work. I think Roberts Hall is an excellent example of your work, as already said. I would love to see that happen here. It's fiscally irresponsible for us to do that there. If something happens, the city is at risk. And I've seen all of your heads shake up and down when we talked about this in the last 2 or 3 meetings. If I had an option, like was said tonight, that we could restore that as is or at your preferred site, I would have presented it and been happy to, and I'll be happy to show up and swing a hammer too. I want to see this happen. I just could not figure out a way, no matter which lawyer I called, no matter which similar construction project, partnership with a 501c3 in a city or any municipality, I could not find a way to alleviate the liability of the city. If we could, we would, and we'd be doing it right now. What I sought to do, and what my charge was to find a way to get you guys in that building, to get it restored as expeditiously as possible, and to do it right, and this was the quickest path to that and the best path I saw. That's why I brought this in front of the commission.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the public? Okay, Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Shad?
Aye.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashbrook?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. And the resolution has passed for the acquisition and sale of the fuel depot property. At this time, that brings us to item number 20, which is public commentary on any issue. Yes, sir.
Virgil Fell, 1009 Colorado. First of all, I want to recognize that the improved acoustics in this, whatever title we're using now, the Government Center for Lynn Haven.
Vincent Chambers.
And I hope that Mrs. Messer is hearing me. The acoustics are much improved. Thank you, whoever, all of you that do all this, okay? Now, the other thing, Mayor, is that today from 3 o'clock to 3:40, I rode up and down Highway 77 here, observing people who I would set my speed control, at the speed limit, whatever that was, whether it was 35 or 45, whatever. And certainly I agree. I mean, I travel quite a bit, and so some of you up here may have already thought of this. I know that 77 is under the jurisdiction of the state of Florida. I understand that very, very well, having dealt with that situation. But there are 3 streets that I travel often: Colorado, Tennessee, and on the way, well, I'm blocking now, behind Walmart, okay, Minnesota. They all have these solar-powered devices that tell you how fast you're going. Now, I don't know if it's been thought of, but to me, it would make a lot of sense to install one of those when we're coming from north, right off at the welcome to Lynn Haven, because I think that would help people to be aware of how fast they're going and maybe set the tone as they enter Lynn Haven or as they're coming from the south going north and nothing. So that's a suggestion. And again, if we had a way to distribute this meeting to other cities or countries or whatever, they could learn about democracy from being right here. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the public? Yes, ma'am.
Anita Sampson, 94 Kentucky. Last meeting I was at, you had changed the meeting time to every other time for 6 o'clock, and I asked about how you're going to let the public know, and I mentioned the water bill.
Yes.
And I don't think it's been done.
Hasn't happened yet.
Will it be done?
Yes, I think we missed the deadline. However, it was on several others. I mean, from the internet to Facebook.
I know that.
To the marquee to, yes, we can.
But I think the water bill would get to those that are not, internet savvy.
Sure.
Facebook, everybody gets the water bill.
Right. The January 2nd meeting will definitely be on.
Very good. Okay.
Time, right.
And I'd like to bring up the golf cart. You all did vote no. I wanted to wait. I think it's very unfair that you've got select communities where you are allowed golf carts. I'm in Old Lynn Haven. I really am a community where there's limited access. So perhaps how do you go about coming to you to ask for my community to have golf carts in it? Because I'd like to have a golf cart to go to Kinsel Park. I'm limited access because I'm covered by the bay and bayous. So is that a limited access community? I mean, you don't have to answer me now, but if I came to you and said...
My understanding is that the ordinance does afford you the ability to petition the city commission as a limited access subdivision.
Okay. So any city...
Just like the other 26.
Okay. So any resident then who feels that they have a little enclave, we could come and do that. And like I said, and if it's not permissible for that, I'd like to, like Mr. Barnes said, go back to the old ordinance that I pulled up. Only those people that are within half mile of those 2 country clubs have golf carts. The other communities go back to the way it was if it's not fair for everybody. So, I mean, I don't think it's going to go away. So, keep your open minds and don't keep just saying no just to say no. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else have a comment during the public commentary time? Okay, thank you so much for your time this evening. Thank you for coming out and listening to what's going on in Lynn Haven. And everyone have a wonderful Veterans Day. This meeting is adjourned.